Sometimes how you come across somebody once in a while you shouldn't have messed with. That's me.
Well,
I am not an African American.
You're Oreo cookie, white in the inside and black on the outside.
I don't have an afro, I have an Amerifro.
Talking that idiotic stuff you talk about, I will slap you.
Go ahead. Make my day.
Black as the ace of spades, but 100% American.
Heard around the world by everybody and their mama. The Jesse Lee Peterson Radio Show.
Uniting the races with truth instead of dividing them with lies. We're also rebuilding the family by rebuilding the man. I am Jesse Lee Peterson. Good morning. Welcome to the second hour of the Jesse Lee Peterson Show. White on the inside, black on the outside. But one thing for sure, no African here. Not an African American, but 100% American. Yesterday we talked about the war on Christmas and how the atheists do not want you to even display nativity scenes around this country. And we're just not understanding this war. I have with me Tom Flynn, Executive Director of the Council for Secular Humanism out of New York, and he is the editor of Free Inquiry magazine. I'm going to tell you how to get that before we leave the show this morning. Tom, good morning. Welcome to the show.
Oh, good to be with you, Jesse. Good morning.
All right. Merry Christmas.
And happy just another day to you.
Tom, define secular humanism. What is that exactly?
Secular humanism is a philosophy of life, or what we call a life stance. It's based on naturalism, the view that the ordinary world of matter and energy that we see with our senses and study through the sciences is probably all that there is. And it's based on what's called consequentialism in ethics, and this is to say that ethical convictions and moral values should be judged by their results in the real world and not necessarily by how well they conform to, any pre-accepted body of doctrines.
And how is that different from atheism? Is that the same?
It's sort of an additional construction on top of atheism. I mean, I'm proud to be an atheist myself, but as I always tell people, that's only the beginning. Once you are an atheist, once you have, rejected all of these accounts about supernatural gods in the sky and what have you, the question then becomes, okay, what's the best way for people to live? And that's where you move into the domain of secular humanism. That's where you start using reason, compassion, common sense, and the judgment of your fellow people to figure out what are the best ways for people to share this planet together.
Have you always been an atheist?
No, I started out as a rather conservative Catholic, began to have doubts when I was about 12 or 13 years old, and didn't finally arrive at atheism till I was about 22.
And what caused you to become an atheist?
I found the teachings of my former church no longer convincing. I'm just old enough to have grown up in the Catholic Church prior to Vatican II, which is to say, even at 7 or 8 years old, we'd already been taught that all the other religions were wrong, only ours was right. So when I started looking a little bit into church history and looking at whether the doctrines made sense, well, it was, in pretty short order. I stopped being a Catholic and then stopped being a Christian and eventually stopped believing in God at all.
So at one point you did believe in God up until you became an atheist.
Oh, yes.
You believed in God.
I did.
You believed in God. And so what changed about you what was it like for you believing in God?
It was enormously comforting. I mean, I was one of those religious kids who went to bed feeling really excited that I belonged to the church that had the truth, and I had a shot at going to heaven when all those other people were going to go to hell. It never occurred to me how morally terrible that view was. I was really excited about it. I mean, I guess it's the same sort of feeling that young British boys had in the army when they'd go to Africa and slay thousands of natives and go to bed thinking, "Wow, how strong we are."
And then you stopped believing in God. What changed about you at that point?
It was one reason this process took me 7 years was that I had a lot of emotional work to do. As a believer in God and as a believer in the Catholic worldview, I sincerely believed that I was going to live forever. I sincerely believed that the world was structured in a way that made sense, that there was moral recompense for everything that happened to you in this life or the next. And there was a long period where it was really, really scary to think of living without those certainties. But, eventually my intellectual conviction that is how the facts were won out. And what I discovered after that was that it was actually surprisingly comfortable, surprisingly rewarding to live as an atheist. I had this whole burden lifted off of me that, I was going to be judged by some God or that I might spend eternity in torment for having done or thought the wrong thing.
So it sounded as though when you were a Catholic, you carried some guilt and fear about what's going to happen to you. And once you stop believing in God, all of that left, so you don't carry those things anymore, right?
That's right. That's right. I mean, looking back on what I believed as a young Catholic in the Church before Vatican II, being alone in the universe is infinitely more liberating and infinitely more just. Far better nothing at all, and when you die, that's it, than to really be under the thumb of the kind of God I believed in.
That's amazing. So do you consider yourself a godless person now?
I do, and proudly so.
Being an atheist or a secular humanist, why do you guys attack Christmas?
Well, first I need to clarify something. A lot of us don't attack Christmas. In fact, I sometimes go out on the road and give speeches where I urge my fellow secular humanists to be more visible in sitting out the holiday. A lot of non-religious people, keep Christmas more or less traditionally, except that they don't believe in the baby Jesus, but they put up a tree and they exchange presents and take the day off and everything else. Another big group of humanists don't do Christmas, but they practice, for example, the winter solstice. They celebrate the winter solstice.
But you do agree that there is a war on Christmas that's brought on by the atheists, right, and the humanist people?
Actually, I don't. I consider myself a soldier in the war on Christmas, but I'm one of the few atheists I know who are motivated that way. I think there's a lot of hype coming from the right regarding the war on Christmas.
No, it's not hype. It's real.
I think here's the thing. I think there's some reality to it, but it's not a war in the sense that there's no mastermind general on the other side orchestrating it. What we're really dealing with, I think, that causes a lot of anxiety among some people on the right, is that the culture as a whole, including a lot of big merchants, including people in government, are recognizing that there's a lot more religious diversity in the country than there used to be. And Christmas is still a huge thing, but it's not everybody's holiday in the way it was 50 years ago.
Well, I've noticed that you may not be aware of it, Tom, but in California, Texas, and other areas, there is an attack or war against Christmas by these godless atheists. And what I realized from that is that the atheist people remind me of the homosexuals. They are homosexuals and they are insecure about being that way. They don't want anyone to remind them that they are like that. That is wrong. So they attack the Christians. And the atheist people are insecure about Christ and about Christmas, so they attack Christmas. And I know it's out of insecurities. Do you guys recognize that?
Not only don't we recognize it, I'd have to say that I view it as an awful lot of pop psychological claptrap. And while we're at it, I know an awful lot of atheists in states like California and Texas, and I'd love to know who these individuals are who you feel are conducting the war on Christmas. Because I don't know who they are, and I'd like to get to meet them.
Well, there are some atheist folks who have attacked Christmas in Santa Monica, California, and these folks are from out of town, and they are definitely attacking down there. They took the space, a lot of the space away from the Christians where they put their nativity scenes up. And the atheists got involved and prevented that from happening in a big way.
Are we talking about nativity scenes that were being displayed in public spaces,
yes.
in City Hall, in the park?
Yeah, hold on for me, Tom. Let me take a quick break. We're going to squeeze in a few calls for Tom as well. 888-7753-773. Back in a moment. 888-7753-773. Manhood Hours coming up in the third hour. I am Jesse Lee Peterson. Thank you so much for being with me. Talking about the war on Christmas, Tom Flynn is my guest. He is the executive director of the Council for Secular Humanism. He's also the editor of the Free Inquiry magazine. Tom, you're only with me until the bottom of this hour, so I want to squeeze in some calls here. Everybody and their mama want to talk to you. But
put their mama on first.
I got to say, Tom, that you're the first godless person who is proud of being godless.
Well, maybe I'm the first one you've interviewed. Trust me, there's a bunch of us out there.
Do me a favor, give out your website and whatever in case we run out of time. I'm going to the phones. What's your website?
Oh, certainly. Our website is www.secularhumanism, one word, .org. Again, that's secularhumanism.org. And there's lots of resources available there about atheism and secular humanism and what we believe, why we believe it. And I'm sure a lot of your listeners will have questions about that, and I do hope they'll take a look through our site and learn some things about it.
Absolutely. Let's go to Phoenix, Arizona, to talk to Guy. Good morning, Guy. You're on with Tom.
Hey, good morning, Jesse. Good morning, Tom.
Good morning, Guy.
I'd like to find out, do you consider yourself a religion?
No.
Okay.
Absolutely not.
I got some real quick questions. So you don't consider a religion. So a religion for the New Age is secularism. Do you have a Bible?
We do not.
You have a manifesto?
The humanist movement has generated about 6 documents since the 1940s, three of which actually bear that title, but we don't have just one.
No, you have 6 different manifestos. And who are your preachers and your pastors? Would that be teachers, yourself? And are you tax exempt?
Okay, we don't have preachers or pastors. We are an educational organization, not a religious organization. And as an educational organization, we do have tax exemption from the Internal Revenue Service. Although I need to tell you that the tax exemption we have is not as favorable as the ones that religious groups get. There's some regulatory things that we have to do that they don't.
But you ask for donations and charities and stuff like that for charity. So,
sure, just like any college or university, symphony orchestra, nonprofit hospital, the National Geographic Society. Yeah, we do that.
So in other words, you're not a split hair from any religion. You're not a split hair one bit other than the Catholic religion you left. Except you don't believe in God. Wait a minute, let me finish. You don't believe in God.
Let me ask the question.
Let him respond, Guy. Let him respond.
Okay. We differ from religion in one very big thing. We don't believe in the supernatural. And I mean, that's one of the key differences between a religion and a philosophy. And if you're going to talk about taxation, we're not like a religious nonprofit organization in that we're required to disclose our financial information, and we have to file a bunch of paperwork every year that no religious organization has to. So we're distinctly different from a religion, both philosophically and legally.
Hey, Jesse?
Yes, sir.
I find it amazing that these people go so hard to something they don't believe in. They go after something they don't believe in. And this guy is no more than any church around. They have a manifesto. They even have holidays.
Thank you, Guy.
God bless you.
All right, buddy.
This has been the Jesse Lee Peterson Radio Show, produced by Bond Action. To access the podcast of this show, visit us on the web at bondaction.org.